Greetings, fellow humans and human fellas. Welcome to the pod where we chat, argue, and wax poetic about the movies that we love, hate, or that are simply worth talking about. All stories have something to say, and we love trying to analyze what they capture. Welcome to the Chatter After. I'm your host today, Michael Thomas, and today we are talking about one of my favorite Netflix shows. We just got the most recent season, The Dragon Prince. The Dragon Prince follows two human princess and an elven assassin as they fight to bring balance to the world. It's made by Aaron Ehasz, one of the head writers of Avatar: The Last Airbender. There's a lot of references to that show, so the pun was actually kind of warranted. But I'm not here talking The Dragon Prince alone. Joining me, of course, are two great friends. First off, welcome back, Christian from Film Optics. How you doing, man?
Hello. Hey, what's going on? This is my second time with Michael this weekend.
Yes,
because we talked Black Panther. But thank you for having me on, man. I'm very excited to talk about the Dragon Prince. Fantasy is like my favorite genre, and honestly, this year TV has been like killing it, outperforming movies. Dare I say? I think it has been. And we're here. We got some more fantasy goodness after House of the Dragon and Rings of Power and the Sandman. So I'm here to talk some more Dragon Prince season 4.
That is some good content right there, man. That fantasy fans are living large in 2022.
We are.
Joining us, of course, for the first time on the Chatter After. He's the real deal. It's Real James. How you doing, man?
Welcome Mike, thank you so much for having me, man. I've actually been wanting to collab with you for a minute now because honestly, your work, I just see how you progress. You've been growing like month over month, and I'm just so proud of you. So this is an honor of my own, and to really collab with Christian again. It's been a minute. You know, your work with Film Optics is incredible. So I can't wait to do that again, hopefully with you guys. So really excited to talk Dragon Prince this morning.
Yeah, I'm really glad we got this crew together, and you have been an inspiration. Watching you guys, both of you, over the last couple of years has really helped me as a creator as well. And I couldn't think of a better crew to work with this one. Sorry, Brandon and Isaac. We'll talk anime tomorrow. But let's get into the Dragon Prince. But before we do, a little bit of housekeeping for you guys. If you guys enjoy what we do here at the Chatter After, make sure you subscribe and like the video. It really helps us out. And if you're listening to us on YouTube, you can take us with you on the go. You can take the Chatter After with you on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and you won't miss a beat. Vice versa, if you're listening to us on the podcast feed, you get to see our wonderful faces here on the YouTube channel, so you can subscribe for that, especially for Christian. You don't see Christian's face that often because he's an audio podcast.
I'm not camera ready. It's fine. It's good. No, it's all right.
No, but yeah, make sure you guys subscribe. Without further ado, though, let's get into the Dragon Prince. We're going to start with seasons 1 through 3 because we've never talked the Dragon Prince on the Chatter After. So, James, I want to toss it over to you first. This is your first time here. What are your thoughts on the Dragon Prince seasons 1 through 3?
Well, what's really cool is that the way I even got into the show originally was because I was late to the Avatar: The Last Airbender bandwagon. So when I finished dropping my reactions and reviews and coverage for book 3, I had a lot of the Real Family in the comments. Shout out the Real Family. They're incredible. They were telling me, they said, hey, well, if you like this, you're going to love The Dragon Prince. And I was like, I don't think I will. It's like a kid's show. I don't know if that's going to work for me. So I started season 1. And then after about the first few episodes, I started to realize that the show had a lot of weight that could appeal to my generation, to adults. And then from that point on, I just got hooked because the good thing about the Dragon Princes through seasons 1 through 3, it just gets better and better and better. And I like that about TV series where they just kind of one up one another. So the show's been so special to me. And also it features one of my favorite characters in all of animation, which is Rayla. She's just an incredible character. So I'm really happy to talk more about that and her role in season 4, which I'm sure we'll get to.
Oh yeah. You know, it's interesting that you actually started right after Avatar and kind of seeing, again, Aaron Ehasz as a writer kind of progress and where he wanted to take the story in a different direction, separate from what he did with Mike and Brian on the Avatar series, because you can see some of the elements are still kind of there. Elements. you can kind of see, like, even like calling the seasons books, having all of the elemental magic and having this grand high fantasy in a kid's show, I think was very, very cool and a nice progression as we move on, but still distinctly different. Like we can make jokes and make comparisons, but this is not Avatar, The Last Airbender, at all. But I think it's cool seeing the DNA still seep in there once in a while. Christian, what about you?
So I think my relationship with the Dragon Prince started when season 1 came out. I didn't know anything about it. I was just browsing through Netflix one day and it just popped up and I was like, oh, this looks interesting. Like I like the aesthetic. I'm a big sucker when it comes to like hand-drawn animation or just animation altogether. And I started watching it, and then, you know, one thing kind of just led to another, and you like heard Caleb's voice. I was like, I know that voice. I'm like, you know, I was like, oh my gosh, of course, you know, Avatar, Last Airbender, DNA, voice actor, of course, for Sokka. It's all there. And I just fell in love with it. At first, I wasn't sure when I was watching season 1 about the animation, but then I just got used to it, and now I absolutely love it. And I've just been watching it like ever since. So I was like, wow, I'm like, why are people not talking about this? And this is actually my first time being able to talk about it at all, because I thought I was like the only person. I'm like, yeah. So I thought I was the only person who ever liked it. I was like, well, I'm like, I don't know if that many people like Avatar all that much anymore. I still do, but yeah, it definitely. If you love Avatar: Last Airbender, this is definitely, and of course, Legend of Korra. You know, this falls into that realm, and there's a lot of Avatar DNA throughout. It's familiar, but it's different. Like it is this high fantasy world where they show how magic works. And that's what I like about the show. It's, you know, it shows the exposition. It's not just, oh, well, magic's here. We're like, well, how does it work? It's like, oh, let's just not worry about that. Magic is here, but for magic's sake. But they really get into like the nitty gritty of the world of Xadia, and there's so much backstory. And apparently there's comics or
Graphic novels. Yeah.
Graphic novels about them. I haven't touched on those yet, but it goes deeper than I thought. But yeah, that's kind of my relationship with it so far.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I actually started watching the Dragon Prince when I was sick, like I do most anime and animated shows. I'm sick, I'm at home, and I'm like, okay, let me binge Netflix. And I watched the first 2 seasons in a day because I had nothing else to do, and it was just so captivating, those first 2. And then the wait for season 3, the way season 3 just ends is one of my favorite finales in a long time. It's just so good. And I think what I love about the Dragon Prince is the characters, right? And any good story, especially any good fantasy story, yes, you're going on this grand adventure, but you're really having to focus in on those characters. So Ezran, Callum, Rayla, having that core group, and then you have the other characters like Soren or Claudia, and even Viren and Aaravos as antagonists. That's what's really at the heart of this story, and what makes it so strong for me is that seeing them develop and change and grow throughout the course of the series is one of my favorite parts of any fantasy story. And this one is no different. I also love how concise this story is, right? Like 9 episodes a season, you're in and out. Most of the time that doesn't hurt it. We'll talk about season 4 a bit in a second. But I think the first 3 seasons, incredible journey. Guys, do you have anything else on seasons 1 through 3, or do you want to just dive straight into season 4?
Yeah, I did want to add and kind of piggyback off of what you said, Mike, because that speaks to the incredible direction and writing by Aaron Ehasz and Justin Richmond to give us character depth in 9-episode seasons, because most of the time you get 9 episodes a season, someone's getting left behind. But for me, I've never felt any of our main characters have ever been left behind. I mean, even King Hero is still getting backstory, and we're in season 4 of this show. I mean, there's so much to learn about the world of Xadia and the human kingdoms that we've yet to even scratch the surface, I believe. And I think that's why season 4, I mean, everyone got their thoughts on it, but I do think it opens the door for more lore, and that's always a good thing for the show.
Yeah, totally agree. Like, that's one thing I really love. Like, you mentioned King Hera. When you really think about him being in the show, he's only in like 3, maybe 4 episodes max, regardless.
Yeah.
But his impact is felt all the way up into season 4, which is something that I love. Like you said, that world building and the storytelling is just so good. So we get into season 4. We're going to just dive right into it, unless you had something else you wanted to add right quick, Christian.
No, I mean, I think you guys hit the nail on the head. You know, it is very impressive for a show that runs about, I would say, maybe 22 to 25 minutes per episode. Like,
yeah,
they cover so much, and it doesn't feel like there's a second wasted when it comes to, even for season 4. I mean, it feels more like it's more the aftermath of what happens for season 3. But yeah, like, it's like not a second is wasted. Like, every single scene, it progresses the story forward, and, you know, the setup and payoff and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I'm ready to talk about it whenever you guys are.
Let's dive in. Season 4. Guys, if you aren't caught up on the Dragon Prince's latest season, The Mystery of Aaravos, this is your time to leave. You hung out with us for a good 12 minutes or so thanks for stopping by. But if you aren't caught up somehow, this review is kind of late anyway, just go watch it on Netflix. It's a blast. So this season, I think, is fascinating because we pick up after the events of season 3, but we also had a time skip. And if I'm remembering correctly, this is like the first major time skip of the series. Am I right about that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, we've had not a time skip before, maybe like a month or so, but this is a 2-year gap between season 3 and 4.
Yeah, they did the Young Justice thing. And so I think, and much like Young Justice, that is a good thing, but also kind of a detriment to the season, where there are gaps and holes that aren't necessarily filled in. And it's like, I'd like to see Rayla leave. I'd like to see all of these major plot points that are affecting these characters. I'd like to see those happen, as opposed to you telling me that it happened and I have no connection to it. And I think that's where, because in my review before the season came out, I got the first 4 episodes and I was talking about how much I really enjoyed it, much to the dismay of the comic section on that video. But the reason I was talking about how much I love the first 4 episodes was because we did have that intrigue. I just don't think in the end it ultimately paid off the way I would have wanted it to, which is why Netflix, give us the full season, because that half review didn't necessarily reflect my full thoughts on the season as a whole. But Christian, I want to start with you. What are your thoughts on like the time jump and how that kind of affected these characters and your perception of them?
So much like Stranger Things 3, it felt like an eternity waiting for season 4 for the Dragon Prince. And I felt like when I watched season 3 of the Dragon Prince, you know, I was caught up with that. But then going into season 4, like you said, Mike, a lot of things happen off screen. And I was like, did that happen? Like, it's been so long since I've watched season 3 of Dragon Prince. Yeah. I was scouring to kind of find some sort of like recap video. I know Netflix kind of pumped one out, and it actually plays during the beginning of season 4 because it's been so long. But my overall thoughts when it came to season 4, I did enjoy it. It, like I said before, it feels like the aftermath to season 3. And I guess you can view that as a good or a bad thing because, you know, they're titling it, you know, The Mystery of Aaravos. And we do learn more about Aaravos in season 4. But I feel like it feels like a beginning of like a new, like, I guess, section or trilogy. Like 1, 2, 3 was like one story arc. I'm assuming, you know, praying here for 5 and 6, you know, 4, 5, and 6 to be like a whole new story arc altogether. So it feels as if, you know, we're tying up the loose ends for season 3 and we're moving forward with like a new story arc, which is something I really enjoyed. There's about 3 or 4 storylines to follow within this season. I think it's at least 3.
Yeah, let's name them, Christian. You got the main storyline, right, going to Umber Tor. So that's the A plot. The B plot would be like Vera and Claudia, you know, Vera getting a staff, and then maybe the C plot is Terry. Sorry,
and Terry. Yeah,
can't forget Terry.
Murderer. So the C plot would then be Amaya and Janai, the Sunfire Elves, and human conflict, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So I feel like that's what really made it the aftermath of what's happening. I mean, so much happened in season 3. It's like you can't just. There's so much they had to address, but overall, I did enjoy it. Like my only critique, I guess, I wish we would have got more episodes. I don't know why. I just wanted to keep going and, like, you know, I was just ready to dive back in. But, we got our feet wet. We're more in the shallow end right now. But hopefully, prayerfully, if it gets picked up for season 5, it's kind of sucks you have to stand up with Netflix now because you never know. But assuming that it gets picked up for like a 5th and 6th season, I feel like that's where we'll get into more of like the deep end of everything surrounding Aaravos, because he is the next big bad.
Yeah, I come bearing good news. It's been renewed to season 7, so
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I love the suspense. I'm like, I'm sitting here like I could have sworn they announced like a year
Did they
ago.
really? I must have missed it.
He just missed it. He's like, it might get canceled. It's Netflix. I'm like, good news for you, buddy.
I need 10 solid seasons. Just give it to Netflix. Give them all the time in the world they need.
James, what are your thoughts? Because as Christian was talking, I saw you kind of chomping at the bit there to jump in.
Yeah, listen, first of all, I loved everything that Christian said, and I was like, you know what, my mic's on mute. Good, praise God, because I don't want to interrupt him. I will tell you that season 4 for me, it's one of those growers. It's grown on me after I finished the finale, and the reason I say that is because if you view the season as, oh, I need all my answers or all the questions answered in just one season, you're not going to enjoy this season, because this is a stepping stone season into the next saga. The first saga was reintroducing elves into the human kingdoms, and then that conflict and Viren, of course, trying to take over. And then this next conflict is building up to Aaravos, getting him out of that mythical prison, and then eventually him being the Thanos of this universe. But the reason I think this season is better than people give it credit for is because in most TV series, you don't give all the answers right away. If you do, it's a movie. It's not a show. You have to keep the viewers attached at the hip. And what did they do by the end of this season? We see the coins, Rayla's parents, and Runan. We see Viren getting the staff back and fully leaning into his previous alter ego, which was him being consumed by dark magic, and he is totally off the deep end, as well as his daughter. So this is a season that I think is much better than people will give it credit for. It's not perfect and it does have its flaws, but season 4 was satisfying for me as a fan. And even though it was a 3-long-year wait, I mean, the pandemic affected everyone, so I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt there.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, right? Being the stepping stone to something greater. It really felt almost like a season 1 in a way, in that sense, where the 3rd season was such a big finale to what that arc was. This was all, and I think that's probably why they went with the time skip. It's a reintroduction. We're basically jumping into a new point in the story, which I think is great. And I do want your guys' opinions on like this entire arc as a whole, because I'm with Christian in the sense that while I enjoyed every episode we got, like I want to make sure that's clear. I don't have any problems with the episodes themselves. I felt like I needed 2 or 3 more. And it kind of like, I think in the writing process, they knew that they had more seasons to come, already confirmed. So I wonder if that kind of hurt this season in a sense that, yeah, we don't have to have the giant finale that we were accustomed to, because we already know where we're taking the story next season. We don't have to have that like giant battle or gut punch or emotional moment that we've come accustomed to in the first 3. And I want your guys' thoughts on, like, do you think it was a satisfying conclusion to this story, to this season, or did you want a little bit more?
I think it was. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, James.
No, you go first, Christian. You go first.
I think it was satisfying, because what makes a good TV show, like James said before, like you're not going to get all the answers, and for some reason nowadays people forget how TV works. And I'm like, you're not. It's like House of the Dragon. Like House of the Dragon is leading up to the Dance of the Dragons. It's leading up to the downfall of House Targaryen. You're not going to get all of that in season 1. Like season 1 was the setup for the war to come. And everyone's like, oh, well, I wish we would have gotten X, Y, and Z. And it's like, well, the story's not done. So anytime a series of television has me wanting more, like kind of nibbling at like those loose ends, I think it's done its job like perfectly, because I wanted more. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I guess you could spin it that way, or as a like nitpick, but yeah, I mean, I want season 5 already. Like I'm ready to go. So I think they handled it very well.
James.
And I'll say that the finale and episode 4. Those are my 2 favorite episodes, and it's no coincidence that episode 4 is the start of Act 2, which is like you get in the meat of this season, and the finale is the stepping point or the stepping off point for season 5. Like, the writers, they know what they're doing. Episodes 1 and 2, I know, Mike, you said you have no issues with any of the episodes. For me, episodes 1 through 3 were very much filler episodes for me. I didn't care for them necessarily. It was a sluggish pace, but the minute episode 4 began, I just knew that this show, oh, we're back. Like, the Dragon Prince is back. And I do think because of this long break, they knew we're getting new viewers that are picking up this show during the pandemic. We need to reintroduce them into this world without it being too confusing. And, you know, with any great television series, there's always that one season that it's not a bad season, but in the grand scheme of things, it does feel like a lame duck season because it needs to either get everyone introduced into what's going on, set up stakes, or leave questions unanswered. And fans hate that for some reason. I had people in my comments saying, well, I stopped watching after episode 2. It's a terrible season. I said, dude, you haven't even gotten to the best part of the show yet. You know, have you watched a television series before? This is not becoming of a TV viewer. And that's the problem, I think, with this model every now and then. If this were like a weekly release, I think fans might be more forgiving because it's dropped all at once. Everyone feels like they need all the answers at one time. That's not how it goes. So I enjoyed the season. I just think that fans in particular, especially the hardcore fans, might be a little too harsh on season 4.
That is very, very valid. Because again, even in my review, you know, they dropped episode 1 on the YouTube channel and on Twitch, and everybody in the comment section are telling me it was an awful premiere. Clearly, Netflix paid you off because you liked the first 4 episodes. I'm like, you haven't seen the rest of the show yet. How can you say that?
I have a rebuttal for that because House of the Dragon did the same thing, where they put the first episode on YouTube for people to watch because they want people to subscribe to their. So I just
I just thought that was a really funny response. It's like episode 4 is where the show starts. You're totally right, and that's why it was so annoying because they just dropped me off at episode 4 and said you got to wait like 3 weeks to get the rest of it. But yeah, that's totally valid. That's one of my problems with the Netflix model in general is that I think it's bad for TV and it spoils the viewer in a way because you can just binge straight through everything and get all the answers. With that said, though, let's talk about the plot of this season. And Rayla's disappeared for a long time. Ezran is still king. Callum is just becoming a master in his field. He has no doubts anymore on who he is as a mage. It's fantastic. Christian, I want to start with you. We get dropped back into the Dragon Prince. I know we needed the recap because it's been a long wait. And I know James, I think, is the only one who was able to rewatch the other seasons.
Oh, did you? Oh my God, that's right. Yeah, because he's going. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
going into this, but like, how was it being dropped back into this world and discovering who Aaravos actually is and seeing how things have progressed?
Being dropped back into the world, it's always a welcome back. And I know it's been like 3 long years. And even with the first episode, you know, everyone's getting these new titles. Everyone's, you know, getting these promotions. We have the minister of, you know, was it Jellies or I can't remember. I'm sorry. The baker's name.
Yes, Barris.
Yeah, Barris. Yeah. And he actually has that was like reminiscence of like Hand of the King because it's like his little 10 thing. I was like, oh, there it is. But
shout out to the Crow Master for getting the promotion.
Exactly.
Isn't it assistant Crow Master now? Like assistant manager to the general manager. Yeah.
Dwight Schrute would be proud.
He'd be proud. Assistant to the original Crow Master. But I mean, the first 3 episodes, it is more reintroduction, but it felt like, hey, welcome home. Like we're finally able to see where these characters are in, you know, within this 2-year time jump. I mean, in the animation, it just looks phenomenal. You know, everyone's looking a little bit older and everyone's going through their own lives. It's just kind of like a day in the life for like the first 3-ish episodes. But I enjoyed how Callum has, you know, come into his own when it comes to trying to figure out about the mirror, and then that kind of just leads one thing to another. Then of course Rayla appearing out of nowhere. We're talking about spoilers right now. I just wanted to make sure.
Spoiler podcast.
All right. Spoiler podcast. Let's but yeah, it was a nice return to the world of the Dragon Prince. But I don't know, like going back in, I just enjoyed seeing everyone's faces. And then I was wondering where the story was eventually going to be picked up, and then obviously that does happen. But I mean, just the new characters that we got, especially with the Earth Dragon and that whole the knowledge versus possession type argument, because Callum says, oh, they're looking for the map to Aaravos. I'm sorry, like I said, I watched it all day one, and I haven't gone back and rewatched it. But it was a nice touch. And of course, there's a few nice little Avatar Last Airbender Easter eggs in there. One in particular that
I know exactly which one.
I think I accidentally spoiled it for Mike because I thought he watched the whole thing. And
Jury duty
that's
sucks,
right.
man.
Yeah,
it's fine.
But
it's
that
not
brought a smile.
big of a spoiler.
It brought a smile to my face. But yeah, just returning back to the world was a breath of fresh air. I was like, I forgot how much I missed it. And I was just, when's it going to come out? I was waiting, and then I think it paid off. But I know that's a general answer, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You're good. I'm glad you kind of touched on that reintroduction, right? And one of my favorite bits is seeing what Claudia's been up to for the last couple years,
seriously,
trying to bring Viren back. And now she's essentially taken Viren's role as being the aide to Aaravos. And I thought that was a fascinating spin on where at least I thought it was going. I stayed away from trailers and everything. So I didn't even know there was a time jump until I watched the show. And so
same.
That was very, very cool for me. James, what were your thoughts on some of the characters and where they ended up this season?
So I really enjoy that the show splits itself into 3 separate storylines and that our characters aren't always interacting with one another up until the end. I mean, actually, now that I think about it, doesn't Maya and Janai not interact with the kids at all? Yeah, right. They're just off on their own this whole season, except for episode 1, maybe.
But I honestly feel like Amaya only interacts with Janai the entire season.
I think you're right. They're very easy storylines to follow as well.
Yeah. They are. And the one thing that I really enjoyed about episode 1, even though I did feel like it's one of the weaker episodes, is that it felt right to be back in this world. And that's what the writers, I think, were banking on, is that, okay, we need to get them into it slowly. We can't shove everything in their face all at once. We can't throw in Aaravos in every scene. And, sorry, before I lose this thought, I don't know if it's intentional with what they did with Aaravos this season, but what I love is that they're treating Aaravos like Dave Filoni treated Darth Vader in Rebels. Whenever he's on screen, it's a serious deal. And what was it in episode 4? He controlled Callum and read everyone like a book. So I thought it was really beautiful to see that they are using this season to set up a more mature season to come with season 5, 6, and 7. It just, I do wish that if they would have spent time with filler episodes, it was only with episode 1. I did think that they needed to pick it up a little bit more. And maybe then, Christian, you wouldn't have felt that they needed to add more episodes, because in previous seasons, when I did my rewatch, episode 1 of every single season so far has been very slow. But then 2 and 3, boom, you are right back in it. But with season 4, it was super slow up until episode 4 is when we hit it into overdrive. So I really did. It's not that I didn't like this season. I just feel like it's the weakest of the 4. That we've gotten so far, but that's not saying that this is a bad season. I just really think it's good to be back in Katolis and Xadia.
That's valid, I'd say. Especially, again, we were talking about how tight the storytelling was in the first 3 seasons. In the same number of episodes, that's a very valid criticism of taking a little bit too much time, kind of meandering a bit. As we move past episode 4, though, I think that's when we really hit the ground running. The mission is clear from that point forward. I love Ezran in this season too, him being king and trying to figure out the best path forward to peace, which I think is very fitting for that character. I also love how he's still very immature because he is still a child king here. So we bargain with this giant dragon. It's like, here's a pastry. That's it. That's a very Michelangelo-esque type of deal, right? Here's a pizza, dude. That's gonna solve all your problems. but I think it's very fitting. I want to talk about Rayla because she's the one character who we still don't really know what she was up to during those 2 years. We know she was looking for Viren and Claudia, but we have no like official confirmation what that journey was like for her. James, I'm going to toss it right back to you. You said she's one of your favorite characters. What are your thoughts on how they handled Rayla this season?
So I have my issues on the way they handled Rayla this season, and it's not to say that they did a poor job. It's just for me, we needed a Rayla alone episode. Like, you know how in Avatar: The Last Airbender we got Zuko alone? We needed a Rayla alone episode to really fill in the gaps. And I thought that was actually coming. When I talked about it in my predictions video, I said to myself, they're going to do that maybe episode 5, like right at the middle of the season. Give us an episode to fill in that gap. If she's looking for Rayla, show us how she's struggling to find him. She's out on her own. She's growing as a character, and she still loves Callum. That would have made her return much sweeter for me. But it just never felt like they wanted to get there. And I do remember hearing, if I'm not mistaken, the creator saying you don't have to read the short stories or the graphic novels to fill in the gaps. But apparently there is a graphic novel out there that details where Rayla is after season 3, and it's not touched on in the show. And that's actually a little disappointing for me, because you can't expect new fans to really dive into every single book of Game of Thrones, for example, and then understand the show and not touch on those things. Same thing with the Dragon Prince. There's a short story out there that shows this letter that is being written to Callum, and then Callum breaks down reading it, and it talks about her going out and looking for Viren to keep Callum safe. But is that all? Is she trying to really look for her parents, for Runan, like Athari? Like, she's going back and forth, and I feel like the whole time in this season, at least up until the finale, she was trying to get close to Callum again. She was trying to like make up for that lost time. And that's actually downplaying her character and her importance. She's a warrior, and she will do anything to protect those whom she loves. But in this season, it was really more of, hey, Callum, I love you. Do you still love me? And I'm like, don't do that to her character. And then in the finale, of course, we learn that she's got this new quest to go and free her parents, which is cool. But that doesn't come until very late.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. And that's one of my biggest issues as well, is that, and you're right, having that Rayla alone type of episode would have solved a lot of the problems, because I understand that they're teenagers, love is weird, but also we have no idea what the heck happened these last 2 years. And
I thought I was going crazy. I was like, did I miss something between season 3 and season 4? And I was like, nope.
I watched episode 1 of this season so confused. I went back to season 3 and watched the last 3 episodes to see if I missed anything, because that's how long it's been, and that's how confused I was. But yeah, like it's one of those things, and Christian, you're gonna get a kick out of this. It's very Naruto, right? Where Naruto has all of these filler episodes, but a lot of those filler episodes are adaptations of some of the novels, some of the light novels, and they fill in these gaps. You understand Kakashi as a character, even though the main story never touches on it. You have this section that's considered filler, but it is like his official canon origin story of him being like a member of the Ambu Black Ops. We probably should have had something like that, not necessarily make them filler episodes, but these first 3 episodes of the season really could have just been like, this is what Rayla's been up to. This is what Claudia's been up to. This is what Ezran and Callum have been up to. So when we get to episode 4, we are now caught up to speed on everything that happens, and we can just go from that point forward. Because you're right, it really just wastes her as a character for most of the season, where it's like, yeah, it's Rayla, sounds like Rayla, acts like Rayla, but there are moments where I'm just sitting here like, she's becoming that Sakura type of character, going back to Naruto, where all she talks about is Callum, like how Sakura only talks about Sasuke.
Always.
And it's not fun. I'm glad, again, like you mentioned, James, that they kind of fixed it by the time we got to the end of this story, to where it's like, okay, she's got this new quest, she's got this new mission, and Callum understands it, to where they have that mutual understanding of like, this is what I have to do. And she's able to fulfill that. She doesn't go exactly as we expect it to. I thought it was really clever that Claudia kind of tricked her at the end there, which was kind of cool. It was also a nice moment having her go back to her. But we can talk about them in a second. Christian, did you have any thoughts on how they handled Rayla, or any of the like specific character beats that you were really into, or not into.
So just to kind of piggyback off what James said about Rayla, I think he pretty much he nailed it there, because I just didn't know what was happening with Rayla, but like it's clearly Callum is like completely brokenhearted. He wants nothing to do with her at all, like anymore. And it's like she's trying to like, hey, like I'm back, you know, that counts for something. And he even said in the first episode, he's like, you know, it's no longer my birthday. It's always just gonna be, you know, the day that she left. And I was like, that's just so heartbroken. And it really makes you think, because you would think, oh, you know, she's back and Callum would be okay with everything, but like he's not. He's still trying to process everything, and it's like, I mean, I don't know if they'll ever get back together, because like this man is hurting like a lot. So I'm like, you know what? I don't blame him at all, because you just disappear for 2 years and come back and try to act like everything's normal, and it's like that's not how this works. You know, like hasn't really heard from her, and it's very heartbreaking. But I will say.
You stop this, Christian. You stop this whole Rayla is broken up nonsense, this talk. How dare you put that out there, bro? They hugged. They hugged, bro.
They did. They
got
did.
a moment.
Well, were they on a break? I don't know. But
this is no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
No.
But no, I mean, overall, I mean, yeah, James made really great points when it came to Rayla's character, because she's also like one of my favorites. I just love her. I've always loved her as a character. Like, but I would say between General Maya and her love interest, Janani. I'm sorry, Janai. Sorry, it's been a long morning, guys. I enjoyed watching that storyline, because it still shows that there's a lot of distrust between humans and the elves, even though they kind of banded together, but there's a lot of friction there, and not everything is going to work out hunky-dory, like, oh, like, well, we have like human and an elf getting married, like things are okay. And it's like, no, it's like we see a lot of resentment, pushback, a lot of issues, especially with Janai's brother, because he's just like, hey, I don't really think you should be marrying this human, like that kind of thing. But he's very set in his ways when it comes to the Sun Elves, and it's just it was pretty interesting to see. I like that dynamic. For it being a C plot, I think it was pretty strong, honestly.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to piggyback off of you, Christian, just to like stay on this, because the episode where we get the most development with that plot is episode 6. It's the Drakewood episode, and to me, I loved how they balanced both. We balanced Ezran, Rayla, Callum, Sor, and everyone in the forest, right? And then you had Janai basically not knowing a coup is about to happen with Prince Kareem. And that to me felt like the most layered episode, because it felt like the world is starting to be fully realized. Like there are things happening outside of this quest to go and stop Aaravos from taking over the world. You still have real world issues. It reminds me of Andor. Andor, like there's something bigger happening than what's on the surface right now. But if you can give me Andy Serkis building parts with Diego Luna, I'm good with it, because it just makes the big world feel small. And that's kind of what that subplot did, is that it made everything feel small and more intimate. So I'm really glad, Christian, you loved it too.
Yeah. And then I would say probably between Claudia, her trying to get her father back on track. I mean, granted, man only has 30 days to live, at least for now. And he was so resentment. But he was worried, because it's more of, she has her father's staff. Claudia has her father's staff, and he's very just like, I don't know if I should be messing with this anymore, because I mean, hey, you've been dead for 2 years, and it's like, that's a pretty big shock. And he's, they're going up to across the mountain where he fell to his death. Like, yeah, that would trigger anybody, I would feel. But I really enjoyed that story line too. Just they're trying to free Aaravos, and it's everything just kind of weaves together outside of the the C storyline between the A and the B, and how they all meet up. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have too many like gripes, but I really just enjoyed us learning a little bit more about Aaravos and how he's able to possess Callum, which was very interesting. And he, being a mage himself, and we learned that Aaravos, his main target audience, I guess you could say, are mages. And, that puts Callum in a very big risk. But he didn't like the feeling of, being taken control. And he makes Rayla promise him, hey, if this happens again, if I can't, become, or if I can't, control my own body, it's like, I need you to end my life. And, there's a little bit of pushback here and there, but everything's kind of just weaving together. It's the beginning of a new story arc, and I'm very excited to see where the rest of the story's going.
I'm glad you kind of mentioned that. That just made me laugh a little bit, because I'm a big Avatar dork, if you guys couldn't notice by what's behind me. But
and the yip thing that happens, I laughed. I rewinded that part like 5 times in the Drakewood episode. He was like, fly. Yip. It was like, yip. Oh, wait.
No, but like one of the plot lines in the first book, post book 3, like the first comic book, is that Zuko asked Aang, if I go bad like my father or sister, will you kill me? And that is a very similar plot line to this season. And they didn't linger on it too long, because that's the entire point of the promise of Avatar: The Last Airbender. But I just thought it was interesting how they kind of like, yeah, this is book 4, and we're doing the same idea. It's just kind of funny, because that is that is essentially book 4 of Avatar. It's the first comic book post the war. You guys mentioned Amaya and Queen Janai, that plot line. I enjoyed it for the most part, but this is one of the moments, again, for me, where I feel like we needed an extra episode, because her brother is so adamant about the people not backing her or feeling safe under her leadership, but we never really see it. We just see him being concerned about it.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish we got more perspective from the elves in that community, in that kingdom, just to get a better idea of what the overall sentiment is among her subjects. Am I wrong there? What do you guys think about that?
No, I don't think you're off base.
No,
I will tell you that the final fight, the reason why I think having a solo episode for them would have been a really good idea is because that final fight between Janai and Kareem, to me, it felt anticlimactic. They kept splicing together both what's going on in Umber Tor and what's going on with this fight. Basically, it's Janai wins and stops the coup. If Prince Kareem wins, like Janai and Amaya, they go off on their own and they're banished forever. So that fight should have had more weight, and it would have had more weight if, like you said, they would have added an extra episode or some more time spent, because I want to see Kareem try to like get the order together and be like, guys, like convincing everyone, like Game of Thrones stuff, right? I mean, that's what would have benefited that plot a lot more. But I still enjoyed it. I just thought it was really anticlimactic at the end.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Christian, were you about to say something?
No, yeah, I think James has been on point this entire recording. So, like, yeah, it would have been nice to see a little bit of the concern of the other sun elves when it came to Janai's wedding with Amaya, because we only really see it like it's almost as if Janai's brother was just like the spokesperson for everyone else, but we didn't really see the distrust between the other sun elves, and like, if they were okay with this type of marriage. It was kind of just him saying, oh, trust me, like the people are not going to be happy about this.
Yeah.
And yeah, I wish we were gone like maybe just one more episode with that. I feel like if this was like maybe just 10 episodes, maybe 11, I think that would have been good. Because, like the episodes are so short, which, I mean, granted, I wish they were longer, but it's like the world is so rich that it's actually kind of an easy binging experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would have been something nice to see. When it comes to the Mystery of Aaravos, I mean, we do learn a lot more about him, but for some reason, I felt like we were going to get a little bit more deeper into his character within season 4. But now I didn't know this got greenlit up to at least 7 seasons, which makes me extremely happy. I'm like, yes, but I'm assuming, once, the other seasons come, we're going to get more into his character and into the depth of his whereabouts as well. So I'm just wondering where he's at, because it's like, Very interesting.
Exactly, Christian. And they need to do that because I think they will really lose this audience if they don't really do a deep dive into Erebos in season 5. Okay, we got that cool moment with him, amazing, but it felt almost too much like a tease because look at all of the
It did.
posters and the official art that was being released, the clips,
Yeah.
everything pointed to Erebos being a major player. And he has one appearance outside of the flashbacks, but one appearance in real time. And that's, to me, a little too disappointing to where, like, I can't forgive that now. I'll forgive it if that means in season 5 we get not a lot of Erebos, but more than just one appearance. Because, I mean, we all agree that he is the big bad. But for some people, they probably don't see that. Like, if you were to just say binge seasons 1 through 4, the show's telling you he's a big bad, but is he the biggest bad? I mean, Zubiea says that he is literally the most powerful, like, person in all of the kingdoms. Like,
Yeah.
so why are we not getting that sense yet? That's my biggest question.
Yeah, it still feels like it's Viren, really, especially when you have that ending in the finale, right, where he picks the staff up and then his eyes go black, and it's like, oh, that's the fear that I should be feeling with Aaravos, and I'm just getting that from Viren and Claudia at this point.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Aaravos is, he's a little trickster. So, I mean, obviously he's using a lot of people for his pawn. And we see that in the opening credits as well. And there was one opening credit where they switched out Claudia's father for Callum. And I was like, And I thought it was going to be like a new person every single episode.
Can I tell you guys how wrong I was about one of my predictions?
Yeah.
My prediction was episodes 1 through 3, you'll get Viren in the intro and he turns into stone. And then it's like, oh, that's his current pawn. That's who Aaravos is using. And then in episodes 4 through 6, in the second act, we're going to use Callum. So we're going to get Callum in the intro. So when we got him in episode 4, I'm like, yes, my theory's coming true. And then in episode 5, it never happened. We went back to Viren. But I thought in episode 7 through 9, we would get Claudia because she would be the final pawn he would need to then break out of that prison. And it never came to pass. But I almost feel like maybe that could have worked this season.
It could have.
Could have, really. I'm going to be honest. I was a bad boy and just skipped because Netflix gave me the option to skip the intros.
Never skip the intro. And I personally never.
I watched the first two and they were the same, so I'm like, okay, I don't need to watch this. This is the first I'm hearing that the 4th episode had a slightly different intro.
Yeah, it was just Callum instead of Viren. Yeah, I was like, oh, that's interesting. But yeah, I don't know. Much like Avatar, Mike, I never skip the intro. Well, for that show, I'll never skip that intro. Never. But Netflix is robbing of that for the last 4 episodes of book 3. It's fine, but no.
Yeah. If you guys didn't know, Christian is really salty that Netflix starts merging episodes together now for some reason.
What is this? I don't know. I'm
16 episode season for book 3 of Avatar, according to Netflix.
That math doesn't add up in my head.
The math ain't mathing.
It's like Zaslav. Oh, it's been 15 years since we've had a Harry Potter. No, absolutely not. But I kind of wanted to touch on Zim just a little bit. I mean,
yes.
Zim is Zim, but I like the dog-like features. He's getting a little bit more mature. He's kind of like in that teenage adolescent phase, but I really appreciate how he was. He felt more like a character. I mean, he's always been there, but especially with his father dying, and then I'm blanking on the Earth Dragon's name.
Rex Igneous.
Yeah, Rex Igneous, and learning the relationship between Zim's father and Rex was pretty interesting, to say the least. But yeah, I just enjoyed seeing Zim again. It was nice to have him back.
And I do want to I'll piggyback off of Zim now because I was going to ask you guys what you thought of the animation, but for me, the animation was at its peak with the archdragons. Like, they looked incredible. Basically, every dragon that we've seen, even the dragons in the Drakewood episode where Soren has to break this dragon, it looked great. And the thing is, I don't know why that couldn't translate into the animations for our human characters and elves. I feel like all of those characters, the animation was really stiff. That's actually my biggest complaint this season is I do feel like the animation took a huge step back.
Really? Oh, yeah, I can see that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I kind of agree there where it didn't necessarily bother me, but again, this is me coming 3 years removed from the last season. So it's like, I could just be like, maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe it was kind of always a little rough like this. No, that's okay. See, that's why it pays to rewatch everything with that long of a break.
And a fun
Yeah.
fact, Mike, in the intro for season 4, the art style there is actually the old art style in seasons 1 through 3, especially 3. So I almost wondered, did they draft up that intro like maybe at the height of the pandemic or right before the pandemic, and then like production delays and whatnot, and then they said, you know what, let's use more 3D CGI models instead, because I don't know, I like that art style that they use in season 3 so much, and it just never found its way into season 4.
Yeah.
That is something I've noticed because when I was watching it, originally I watched on my laptop instead of on my TV, and something felt weird about it. I was like, it looks more, I can't even find the word for it, but yeah, it seems a bit different from previous seasons. And I was like, maybe, like Mike had said, maybe it's been a while, but yeah, there was something about
Also, the time
the
jumps of
movement.
the character designs are slightly different.
That too. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, not a big disappointment, but yeah, I kind of do miss the way it was before. Something it felt like not maybe gradier, if that makes any sense. Like there
I
was
don't know.
like the edges of like some of the characters felt. I don't want to get into like PC talk and stuff. It didn't feel as complete for some reason, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, the lighting wasn't bad. I'll
yeah.
give it to that department. The lighting looked good. I liked the hair animations, and I really appreciated the backgrounds and the
Mm,
scenery. I mean, Rex Igneous's lair, that scene
that
was
was
incredible
great.
with all the opals, like the moon opal, and it just looked so beautiful. It's just when you get in these extreme close-ups on Callum's face, on Ezran's face, on even
Mm,
Viren's face, I'm thinking, guys, it's got to move a little bit more. Like the voice work is incredible. Like the casting is so good for this show, but like,
that's what it was.
why are the facial animations not moving?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he said, it could have been the pandemic just affected production on this season. If you go back, another anime reference, My Hero Academia season 5 kind of suffered a little bit
Mhm.
in the animation department. And much like this season of The Dragon Prince, it's considered one of the weaker seasons, but that season was all set up. And now we get into
Right.
season 6, which is now considered the best season of My Hero Academia. And it's also gorgeous because they figured out how to work in a pandemic going into this season, and everything's back on model. It looks terrific. So
Mhm.
Dragon Prince might be in a similar boat. You mentioned Rex Igneous's lair and that entire journey, those last few episodes, James.
That was great.
How do you think that was kind of as a close to this season? I thought it was fantastic personally.
I agree with you, Mike. It was just, it was basically everything that I'm used to getting from the Dragon Prince in terms of the sense of adventure, but it had a bigger scale. Maybe because, you're looking for the map to where Aaravos' prison is. That's a big mission in and of itself, but this layer was huge. Rex Igneous is huge. It's just this larger than life adventure for these very small characters, but they really did a good job at giving us that sense of adventure. And that was my biggest thing coming into the season. I wanted that sense again, like we got in seasons 1 through 3, but now in season 4, the way they ended that final act for me was the strongest stretch of episodes. I think it's episode 7 or 8, where the pacing is so darn good to where when it started to when it ended, I actually forgot that these are only 20 to 30-minute episodes. I felt like I was in this world for so much longer. And that's what I think is
Yes.
so darn good about this show. When it's at its peak and all the cylinders are firing, we get episodes 7, 8, and 9. But when it's a little weaker and maybe slow, I think the product of that is episodes 1 through 3. So there's really good points and there are some really low points in this season. But the final act, Mike, was just out of this world.
Yeah. I love all of the characters. I think really shine in those final few episodes too, because they all get their moment to shine. We get to see why Callum is the way he is, why he's such a great character, why he's such a strong mage. We get to see why Ezran is such a good leader, his empathy, his compassion, his smarts too, considering how young he is. We get to see Rayla, her sense of duty, her willingness to protect her friends and do whatever it is necessary. Like her giving up her blades, right? You hear
Mm.
how much they mean to her. That was such a great moment because she was, without question, willing to part with it if that was going to get the job done, so they can stop Aaravos, so they can bring about peace in this world finally. And I think that's what it, like you said, it's the heart of the Dragon Prince, right? The stakes are high. It's just clicking on all cylinders. I feel like it's a fantastic conclusion to this season, even though I'm greedy and I wanted a couple more episodes.
Yeah.
But I think it was really solid overall. Once we got the gears turning, we hit the ground running a bit post episode 4. Christian, what about you? How are your thoughts on kind of the wrap up, or even just like the journey to Rex Igneous and how that all kind of comes to a head?
The journey to Rex Igneous was very well worth it. And when we finally, meet this earthbender dragon, I guess you can call him, but he's very stubborn. They didn't realize that they had to bring these trophies or offerings, when they're going through each of the challenges to get to like his final lair. It was a great idea to show how grand his domain actually is. It's not just, oh, well, let's just like walk inside this mountain and there's Rex, we can just go talk to him. It's like, no, it takes time to get to his lair. And then when everyone's willing to part with their most prized possessions, he kind of just scoffs at it, and he's like, I literally have everything I could ever imagine. And then that's when
2 knives, a hat, and a stick.
Exactly. And then he with Ezran, he kind of just, it clicks. He's like, you can have everything you've ever wanted, but it's something you're looking for, something that you've never experienced. And then I'm assuming that was like a chocolate jelly tart kind of thing,
brown sludge tart. So make of that what you will.
I assume he invented chocolate and he didn't just come up with a good name for it yet.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
I pray that's what it was.
It's very Wang Shitong, right? Where we're going to get this map, this great knowledge, and it's just really funny having Jack DeSena in book 4 Earth having to go to this giant and say, hey, we need your help, and the building starts crumbling as they leave. Was that intentional?
I would have laughed if Callum took a string and offered it to Rex. I would have been like, this is too much for me right now. He was like, look, I guess that counts as knowledge in Washington. I thought that would have been funny, but
that would have been too much. The reference was already too strong.
I know. Oh my gosh, that I would have had to pause the episode for like at least 20 minutes just to kind of like recollect myself. But no, yeah, Rex's lair was fantastic, and then you see the empathy that Rex has for Zem losing his father, but when he turns into like a wolf, I was like, that was pretty cool. But it kind of just all crumbles down where you have Claudia coming in and he thinks he's being deceived, and dragons are very intelligent creatures. Usually throughout any fantasy genre, it's always known that like dragons are at least the closest source to magic, and it shows how intelligent they actually are. But it's very Rex was he was a stubborn man, stubborn dragon altogether. But I really loved how it ended because it just ramped up from there, and I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, how are they going to end all of this? And they definitely pulled it off.
Nice.
Yeah, I liked Ben Cotton, the voice actor for Rex Igneous. He did a really solid job. If anything, I know he was in the show for like a very short amount of time, but he probably made me at least feel the most vested in his character because we're already familiar with Soren and everybody, but this is a new character that I feel like I'm now like I'm in love with. I want to see more Rex Igneous. We probably won't, but like of the new characters we've been introduced to, like Nathan, Prince Kareem, and now Rex Igneous, for me, I think Rex is the best of that bunch. I mean,
don't forget
Scene
Terry.
Stealer.
I
keep forgetting about Terry. You know why I keep forgetting about Terry? I feel like they're building slowly but surely to Terry turning on that group. Because I think he's a good guy to a degree. He did kill someone, so maybe not. But he is going to be that one puzzle piece, I think, that is still an unknown. I don't even know if Claudia necessarily trusts him after everything. We got to see the aftermath of that because Terry was like, supporting her and everything. And this was the first time he pushed back on Claudia. Yeah. So could Terry do the Soren thing and go to the good guys? I don't know.
it's strange to me, Terry, as a character, because he's put up with everything, with no pushback, and it's like, this is the moment where you turn on it. Like, her just deceiving Rayla was the nail in the coffin for
This
you.
is where I draw the line.
It's like,
elves got to stick together, Mike.
Maybe,
come on.
I guess. But yeah, it's like, I think that's why that moment just didn't necessarily hit for me, because it's like, well, by all things, she didn't actually like throw the coins in the lava. That's the thing. Like, if she actually doomed her parents, I get it, but it's just like, they're still on her. She had them the entire time. Nothing has changed.
Yeah.
Was it personal for Terry? Because remember, Terry he didn't like being called what he was called. Like, he didn't feel respected by his people, and he very clearly is an outcast. And Rayla, in a sense, is, because she's, again, a moonshadow elf that won't kill, like Aaravos said. So she already feels outcasted too. So maybe at that moment it clicked, and he said, you know what? I actually empathize with Rayla, and you need to correct this fast. And I'm like, oh, all right, Terry, where's the overalls in the relationship? Good for you.
Right?
He's just a dude, he's just a stand-up guy. Terry's a stand-up guy.
He killed someone.
Well, besides that.
So did Superman's killed too.
Out of love. No.
It's fine. No, I'm kidding. Whatever. I think Terry gets some hate, mainly because he's the new character who was introduced early on in the season, and we had too many fart jokes with his character early on, and it's like, I can see why some people don't enjoy him. I think overall, though, he's fine. He's harmless.
Do you guys like the humor this season? Speaking of fart jokes.
It's hit or miss.
Well, Zim's mother had, when
I know what you're gonna say.
The dragon jokes, and but it's funny, and I enjoy how they're actually giving these dragons their own personality, because it just felt like a fun little moment there where oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name again. I'm sorry. It's Soren was like telling the dragon jokes, and they have a nice little like mutual respect between Soren and Zim's mother. I thought that was pretty cool. But I don't know. The humor, I felt like this was a more serious season, but there were funny moments throughout. But maybe Terry did make a few little too many fart jokes. I've only watched it once so far, so I do want to watch it again. It's just he seems to be with Soren, kind of like the two jokesters almost in a way. But I don't know. I can't really say there was too many moments where I was chuckling, besides the yip yip part that had me dying. Like, it really did. I was not expecting that at all, and I was like, why would he know? But it is what it is. But I thought it was hysterical. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna add that I think the humor it's hit or miss. There were some really laugh out loud moments, but there are also, I feel like, coming off of season 3, which was by far the darkest season up to this point, going straight into episodes 1, 2, and 3, and it's like the humor is kind of all over the place. It's kind of, especially once you start introducing fart jokes, it's very juvenile, and it's like, I'm cool with jokes. I don't need it to be like the bare minimum, like the lowest comedy possible.
Lowest form of comedy,
with a fart joke. Especially, the only reason I found it slightly funny is that it kind of started to feel like it was a weird fetish for Claudia, which is just another layer of humor there for it.
You learn more about a character.
I know, right? But
turns around.
But for me, I feel like it kind of it leveled out again the closer we got to the end of the season, because it started going back to what we came to love about the Dragon Prince, where it can be lighthearted, it can be fun, it is a family adventure, but it still was able to balance the humor with more serious moments.
I will say that in the first 3 episodes, I agree with you guys. While the humor wasn't like top tier compared to season 3, they threw the kitchen sink in episodes 1 and 2. The whole flossing scene with Soren, the fart jokes, the petrichor, like it to me, it feels like they thought, okay, you know what, we're gonna front load this with lighthearted jokes, and then we're going to get into serious stuff. But like you said, Mike, if you're going to do that, you guys are capable of making scenes that have like highbrow comedy. Like it's going to be something that both adults and kids can understand. But those jokes, I think, were just a little too childish.
Yeah, they're like, oh, it's true. Like all the kids are doing it. I was like, I mean, flossing's, I mean, I guess it's still a thing, but it's not like a big internet fad anymore. But it also, I'm like, okay, so when was that line recorded? Because so we don't really know. I have no clue, but yeah, I was like,
It's
yeah,
one of
it was.
those. It's one of those things that'll just be immortalized now in the Dragon Prince, like Shiri's "What are those?" in Black
Yeah.
Panther 1. It's like I had to tell my mom, I'm like, that was a meme, right? She's like,
Yeah,
from the movie, like, no, it didn't come from the movie. The
movie.
movie put it in there. Now it's extremely dated.
Yeah,
But she didn't know it, so she was cool with it. I'm just every time I watch it now, I'm just like, that's weird.
well, even with like the planking episode in like The Office, but it's like that's
Yeah.
always been an issue when it comes to like TV, where they try to force like some kind of like fad in. It's like it's not evergreen, essentially. Right. So it's like it's funny for a time, but I don't know. The planking episode was so funny during The Office. I think for some reason it works there, but for flossing, I was like, yeah, like I could take it or leave it.
Parkour worked a bit too.
I think the reason the flossing didn't work is because the show became a little too rooted in our reality. Like we're in that world of Katolis. Like I don't need to know that the characters know about what we're doing on Earth. Like no thanks.
That's true. That's very true.
It's why again,
or create your own version of it, like they do in Abbott Elementary with desking. So it's like it's referencing something. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Mike, but
you're good.
It's referencing something. Obviously, it's referencing like planking or just fads that kids do in Abbott Elementary. So they do the desking thing. If they would have done something similar in Dragon Prince, it probably would have worked a little bit better.
Yeah, come with their, and again, like it's such a rich universe. They don't have to pull from our reality, and it's true. Moments like that pull me out of it a little bit. But that said, it didn't affect my overall enjoyment of the season or anything.
No, not at all.
Guys, did you have anything else you wanted to tackle before we call it an episode?
Honestly, I want to say that the standout for me this season, and I'm really curious to hear your guys' standouts. The one character that I felt for me stood out in every scene is not a popular choice, and maybe it is after this season, but Soren. For me, Jesse Inokala's like voice work for him was so good, and Soren actually got decent character development towards the end of this season. And seeing his father, who we thought was dead, trying to convince Claudia to come back to the good side, it's like this is giving me like really like mature vibes right now, and it all centered around Soren. I mean, even Rayla decided, of course, like, yeah, you go and do your own thing, Soren, and then she felt guilt about Soren possibly dying, and then of course relief seeing Soren that he's alive. But Soren is the catalyst this season for so many different character moments and growth opportunities for our characters. So I think Soren was the MVP this year or this season.
I would actually agree with that. Yeah, I would say so, because everyone else, I mean, they all had great character moments, but he really was I think he was a standout. Usually for me, it's always like been Rayla, but for some reason, I really liked what they did with Soren this season. I thought it was a nice addition to his character. Like he's not just like the butt of a joke, or like, oh, it's just Claudia's sister. Like he switched to the good side, and that's it. But him finding out that his father is alive, it's like, because Claudia didn't say anything, she knew, and it's just like
she sat there all night and said nothing.
Nothing.
Trifling, man. I don't like her at all.
Soren was like crapping his pants. I was like, I probably would have done the same thing. That is a big shock.
Yeah, I mean, especially again, 2 years, insane that.
And he's up for like the grieving period already, and it's like, I mean, that's a long time. So yeah.
Soren is definitely one of my favorite characters, especially because Soren was never my favorite character throughout the story. So I really like what they were able to do with him to make him feel important, because it always felt like he was somewhat of a foil early on, and then he is just Claudia's goofy brother. But now we were able to have a defined role for him this season, and like you said, James, give him somewhat of a character arc going forward. I thought was really good. My standout for this season, that's tough. Oof. I loved all the new characters we met. I think that is one of my favorite aspects of this season, especially since the foundation is so strong. We already have great characters with Rayla, Callum, Ezran, and even Zem. meeting someone like Rex Igneous, meeting all of these other creatures throughout this world, like the stone guards at the door. They're fantastic. Also, shout out to Bait for helping get that door open at the end.
Oh yeah,
the man is dope. Bait is great.
Bait is always great.
Gotta love him. Gotta love our little glow toad. But yeah, like just reestablishing the characters we know, but then also expanding the universe as a whole as we move forward, I think is the highlight of the season for me.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's we're dipping in the shallow end right now, and it's gonna get better. Like, I mean, not saying the season wasn't terrible. It's just this is the setup for obviously more things. Again, people somehow forget how TV works, and
right,
like we're not gonna. This is like you guys said, it's not a movie, but also I think people maybe aren't thinking that way when it comes to Netflix, because it's, even though this is a TV show, like you can easily blast through this in an afternoon, which makes it feel like a movie. So then they're like, okay, well, what about X, Y, and Z, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, well, it's still a TV show. Like there's going to be a lot of questions left unanswered. And again, like they had us nibbling for those little bits towards the ends, those loose ends. And I think they killed it. They landed the season finale, like just they killed it. It was amazing.
I'm with you. They really did a great job bringing this all together as we get to the end. Guys, I think that's a wrap on the Dragon Prince. Unless you have anything else you guys wanted to add, let me know.
Oh, I'm good.
I'm good too. I thought this was so much fun. And Mike, thanks for bringing us together again, talking Dragon Prince, because like Christian, this is the first time I'm openly talking about this outside of my channel. So I really appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's been a blast, guys. Thank you again for taking time out of your schedule to join me. It's been a fun episode. We're going to wrap this thing up, guys. If you enjoyed this, again, give us a like and subscribe so you don't miss any more of the chatter after, so you don't miss any more Dragon Prince coverage, because I feel like we have to come back when season 5 eventually hits in like 4 years. Hopefully it won't take that long.
Hopefully
no, wild guess. I think season 5 comes out in the middle of next year.
Oh,
I hope so. They need to start making this like they do Cobra Kai, where all of a sudden we get two seasons in a 10-month span.
I forgot that happened. Well, I binged everything all at once, so it was just one giant thing for me. But yeah, I forgot they did that.
That has to be a wild ride, binging all of Cobra Kai for the
It was a
time.
lot. It was a lot. I'm like, so many people were switching sides. I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, what? It's peak fiction. It's
amazing. And, we finally he was refusing to watch Cobra Kai for so long. We finally won him over. That's got to be another episode by itself one day.
Yeah.
But, James, thanks again for joining us. Where can people find you, man? What you got coming up?
Of course. And again, thanks for having us, Mike. You guys can find me on YouTube. You can just search Real James, REEL James, where we talk about the Dragon Prince, movies, TV, and a whole lot of news. And on social media, just search at It's Real James, and you'll find me on all major platforms.
Awesome. Make sure you subscribe over there, because a lot of great content every single week. Eulenberg, what you got coming up?
Oh man, so again, thank you so much for putting this together, Mike, because I really wanted to talk about the season, and my co-host is not the biggest fantasy like nerd in the world. Like, it was a miracle to get him to cover House of the Dragon with me every single week. But you can find my audio-only podcast, Film Optics, that is Optics with an X, on podcast platforms around the internet. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. As of right now, we just finished our Causeway review that dropped last week. That's now streaming on Apple TV Plus. And by the time that this is out, our Black Panther Wakanda Forever review will be out for people to listen to as well. We have a few other things we're going to be covering. Look forward to our Willow episode 1 through 3 review dropping on November 30th. And of course, The Menu. That movie's coming up pretty soon, I believe so. So, we have a lot of crazy things we've been covering on the podcast. Smile, Enola Holmes 2, breaking down House of the Dragon every single week. Unfortunately, covering Black Adam, but hey, we needed something to fill the gap. So it is what it is. But definitely, right now through Twitter, we're experiencing some difficulties. Our handle is at Film Optics on Twitter, but you can actually find us at Film Optics on Instagram, and you can find me right now. I'm just pushing all of our episodes on my personal Twitter, which is at C Eulenberg, EULINBERG. But yeah, thank you again so much for having us on. This was a blast because I was looking, I'm like, man, like I really just wanted to talk Dragon Prince because again, Fantasy Nerds stay winning this year, and just like, we're also getting that the Dragon Age series as well, yes. And the Witcher blood thing with Michelle,
Michelle, so, yep,
and his Dark Material. I mean, historic material fans out there. I'm just saying.
But you know what we're not getting, guys? We're not getting any live action Avatar: The Last Airbender on Netflix. My heart breaks.
Rumor has it next year. I still don't know the show exists. I need a poster or something.
Yeah, I need more confirmation than casting news.
Guys, it's fun. It's been fun. We have to talk about all the fantasy coming up next year as well because we're getting a lot throughout the year. It's a blast. If you enjoyed this, check out our episode. I interviewed Michelle Jill Murphy for the Chatter After, voice of Toph Beifong. If you like Avatar: The Last Airbender, I think you'd enjoy that video as well. Subscribe to the Amateur Otaku podcast where we're covering anime every single week. My Hero Academia, Bleach, Chainsaw Man. I think Isaac is reviewing One Piece Red, the movie. It's a musical for some reason. I don't understand that show at all, but it sounds like a blast, so check that out over there. Christian mentioned Peak Fiction. Allegedly, One Piece is Peak Fiction. Nobody else knows because nobody's putting in the hours to watch it. But
what's Peak Fiction is that Ash Ketchum is finally the world's greatest trainer.
About time.
Our boy did it. So.
Took him 25 years, but he finally pulled it off. Finally caught them all. Until next time, guys. Keep watching movies.